how to attach your binding to a quilt. And I'm going to actually show you in a smaller project so that you can get a feel for how to get around the corners so you have got crisp corners, and then how to join your ends at the end of attaching it to your binding so it's just perfectly seamless. So those are the things that we're going to working on today. We're going to work on how to start that binding on your quilt, where to start it, how to get those crisp corners, and then how to finish your binding strips on the end so they're perfectly seamless. And what are the little tips and tricks inside tips and tricks to get that done? For those of you guys that already know how to bind, please join in. As you know, I would love to have your input, tips and tricks for those that are new to quilting and finishing their quilts, or to just help people have a little bit more extra confidence. So hi Liz, hi Linda, let me know where you guys are calling from. Let me know if you happen to, or where you are checking in from. So you might be checking in from, I'm checking in from Salt Lake City, but let me know where you're from. And also let me know if you happen to have a quilt top that's around that needs to be binded, or where you are in your quilting process. So I prepared this quilt block for you, and this quilt block is a modern log cabin, and I am going to release this as a pattern for you guys. But what I'm going to be doing today to attach the binding is I have actually put on the back of this a envelope backing so that this can be a pillow cover. So I'm using just a few extra layers to this, but I wanted to make something fun and playful that I can put on my back porch and enjoy this summer. So let's go ahead and get started. We had a video all about preparing your binding, and I'm going to go over a couple quick tips there. So you want to decide what width of binding you're going to use. I'm using mine is slightly wider today because I'm going through a few more layers than normal. It's already quilted and I've got my layers of the quilt, but I have added an envelope backing. And so I want to go ahead and have mine just a slightly bit wider than I would normally use. It's not that wide though. Also, when I have prepared my binding, I have also pressed it in half, and I have seamed it with a diagonal stitch length or a diagonal joining. So I put those strips together and I joined them that way with the diagonal. And our goal is to have our binding kind of be seamless, nothing too pronounced, nothing bulky inside the binding, and we want our binding to be quickly. The other tip that I have for you, so I am using a fabric for the backing of my pillow that has a bit of texture to it, and it's more like a solid print. It's a woven print, so it's exact same kind of on the back and the front. But I wanted to show you over on this binding that we prepared for the other day during that video is that I always, when I press it, give myself a lip edge, because I definitely want to make sure that I am catching both layers of this binding strip as I'm attaching it to the quilt top. I don't want to pull that forward and accidentally see some layers shining through, and I've got to go back and fix that. So anyway, so I have a small lip edge, and you can see it's just a very tiny lip edge there. Hi, Amanda. So they've got some rain. Hello, Belle. No, Liz, the pattern is not yet on the site, but it will be. Anyways, that's something we're going to kind of talk about today. So we're going to have a lot of fun. Okay, so I have actually joined two pieces of binding together, and I am going to start with my lip edge. So I'm going to have this wider lip edge. You can see this a little bit more pronounced right down here. You can see that lip edge where it isn't coming all the way over. Let's go ahead and flip the camera so you can see from the top camera down. Okay, so you can see a little bit of that lip edge. I have it exposed right here, so I know I'm for sure catching all the layers. I am going to start a little bit sooner here because I don't want my binding strip joined to come into where I'm joining it to the other fabrics. It'd be ideal if this didn't, my joining diagonal strip right here would not come in back on the same. This is about a 19-inch square, so I am actually going to give myself some extra leverage in here and start stitching. So I'm going to give myself a really long edge because I don't want to hit the center of this binding strip. So I'm going to go ahead give that some excess, and I'll trim it off maybe about right here. Okay, now when I come over to bring this underneath the sewing machine, I am going to start about right here. So I want to give myself a good maybe 6 inches extra because we want to do a seamless bind of our binding strips right after, at the very end of this. So we're going to start with extra, but I'm not going to start stitching until this point right here. So let's go ahead and get the sewing machine here now in our video screen. Okay, here we go. I do have a walking foot on my sewing machine, and I do have a denim needle that I am working with in my sewing machine, because you're going through a lot of layers, and you're also working through a lot of layers and want that extra help of the walking foot. So let's go ahead and get started right here. I am putting this under my sewing machine, and I'm going to start stitching that, and I don't want too small of a stitch length. I don't want to be like necessarily a 2.0 in case I make a mistake. I want to maybe give myself like a stitch length of 3, just in case I need to take any stitches out. So you're not too frustrated picking those stitches out. Let's go ahead and bring it all the way to the corner. I made this project small so that we could all practice our binding, and this video won't be too long. When I'm coming over here to the end, I am only going to go to the corner. Let me go ahead and grab a good corner for you. I'm going to bring this pin in closer. I am only going to stitch a 1/4 inch all the way to the edge. So I'm going to stitch along this with my 1/4 inch seam, okay? And I'm going to stop my needle at the 1/4 inch from the side of the end, okay? So let me go ahead and show you what I'm talking about. I am also working with my sewing machine in the needle down position. If you don't have that, be sure to roll your mechanism so that you can go ahead and get that in the needle down position. So I'm coming over, remember I'm going to stop a 1/4 inch from the end, and this will give you the nice crisp corner. So let's go ahead and bring that over. I'm going to stop right there. So I'm going to bring this up to the side. Okay, so you can see right here, and I'm sorry, I should have put like red thread on here. I matched my fabric. You can see I've left myself about a 1/4 inch space over here. If you're a little more or anything like that, it's not going to bother it. So, but I'm going to go ahead and leave it like that. I am now going to fold this back, and I'm going to finger press. So I'm going to fold it back on a diagonal at the corner point, not at where I did my last stitch. I'm going to fold this back at a diagonal point right at the corner of what I'm working on. I am now going to flip this fabric at a 90-degree angle, and it's going to come back around, okay? So you can see here, I've done a 95-degree angle. I'm finger pressing this, and I will show you more of this as we go along. And now I'm going to bring it back down. So I have this little bit of a nice bias or corner pleat in there so that I can accommodate the pleat. Once again, when I restart this, I am not going to start all the way to the edge. I'm going to give myself about a 1/4 inch seam allowance there so that then I can come all the way back. Oh, yes, Linda says she usually puts a piece of Velcro on there. You know, I am actually going to put like a button with a little lasso. And I need to ask Vanessa when she's here where all my zippers were, because I don't have a zipper. But my next pillow I'm doing, because I've got an entire stock of zippers. It's pretty funny that I couldn't find my zippers this morning. Once again, I'm going to just feed this along at my 1/4 inch seam. Linda, yes, it is really nice to put that piece of Velcro on there so your envelope stays closed on your pillow. So, also, what size do you finish your pillows or do your pillow top with the pillow form? What sizes do you usually do? Once again, I'm going to only stitch about a 1/4 inch to the edge, from the edge, okay? And then we're gonna go ahead and stop. I'm gonna cut my thread. Cut that thread right there. I'm going to pull this back I'm going to do my 90-degree angle. And this one I got a little bit close to the edge. So I'm going to just let out a stitch or two, which you can do. So, and I'm going to do a 95-degree angle right here, or 45-degree angle, sorry. And then I'm going to flip this all the way over and to the back. And you just want to finger press this so it's got a good finger press. Now, let me go ahead and show you another element here. If you can see my 95, my little angle for the corner is kind of can flop back and forth. What we are going to want to do right here now is to start a 1/4 of an inch seam. Part of what can help you find that 1/4 of an inch seam is you're going to have a little lump of fabric right here. So you're going to have a little lump, and you can start your next stitch right where that lump is at about a 1/4 of an inch in. Does that make sense? So these will help you have those crisp corners that you want on your quilt. Some of my very first quilts did not have crisp corners, and I have never gone back and fixed them because that was part of my learning process. I had to have someone pull me aside and say, Deanna, you need to have pointed corners. I would love to go back and finish them, but redo them, but I actually find it really charming that I did not do that. So let's go ahead and do a 1/4 of an inch seam off. Bring this over about a 1/4 of an inch seam. And then sometimes in order to get a really good back stitch, I just kind of hold my fabric in place. Once again, we're going to do a 45-degree angle, not from where my stitches are, okay? So you can see that gives me a gap. I'm going to do a 45-degree angle right from the corner. So let's finger press that. Once again, let's do a 90-degree fold of it down. I can feel with my fabric that I have got a lump there. And normally you could see it. This is a woven fabric that has a really nice drape to it, so you can't see it as much. But I'm using this fabric because it matches my outdoor, and I thought it would be just fun to use with this particular quilted pillow. Okay, we're going to bring this again. And so let's go ahead and bring this all the way over again. Here we go. And I'm going to want to just bring this over. Once again, I'm going to stop a 1/4 of an inch from the edge. So you can see for this pillow cover, it's not going to take too long to find this. All right, and we're going to now, right after this is our last corner. We're on our 4th corner here. So let's go ahead and cut our thread right there. And let's look at this. Let me go ahead and show you. I have these 2 corners already done. And now I have coming around my 4th corner. Isn't it amazing how fast it can go? I actually love to do binding. All right, so now let's go ahead and do our finger press once again from the corner. I'm going to flip this over so it's about at a 90-degree angle. And now we're going to reattach this, but I'm going to be a 1/4 of an inch from the edge. So let's go ahead, and I can feel where that lump of the fabric is. Next time I'll have to do a tutorial with crisp cotton. This is cotton fabric. It's just, now you guys are gonna get to the really fun stuff, which is joining our strips right here, okay? So this is gonna be really a lot of fun. I'm gonna bring this open, and I'm going to leave an opening. You can see how these are overlapping right here, okay? I'm going to leave, so I've got about 6 inches open. About a 6-inch opening right in here, 5 to 6 inches, something like that. I'm going to just kind of give myself a little back stitch so things don't tear off. And sometimes I don't do a back stitch with my sewing machine, I just hold it in place. Okay, let's move the sewing machine over to the side, and we're now going to work on this little part right here. Oh, I didn't catch something, or look at that, my little folded thing came forward, but that's okay, I can fix that. Okay, so now I'm going to take out my pins because everything's caught, my layers. Because remember, I'm not just doing a quilt, I am doing a quilted pillow with a envelope fold in the back. Okay, so now we have got these 2 beautiful flaps right here, okay? But we are going to join them seamlessly with the diagonal seam, all right? Because we don't want too much bulk. All right, so here is my piece of fabric that I had before, and it's just, whenever you come to this point, you're going to want to overlap some of it, but if you don't have an extra piece like this, just trim off some of what you've got right here, okay? Now, I am going to, because this works with any width of binding, okay? Because you're going to use the exact width of your binding to determine what is happening here on the quilt, all right? So I am going to take my top, I'm going to lay it on top of my binding that is just flipping around here. And this will be considered kind of like my bottom layer. I'm going to lay this right on top so I know what width this is. I am now going to take this flap and kind of make like a sandwich. This can be the bologna, and we're going to put our sandwich bread over to the side. And we're going to just kind of, I'm going to just secure this for you because I want to give you guys an eye of that. So you can see I've got this right here. I'm now going to lift up this excess flap, okay? And I'm going to trim it right where the edge of that is. So I can see where that is, and and because I put it in between the layers, I know that this one is matching the layer underneath. So let's go ahead and look at this one more time. We take our bottom layer that's open quite wide. We've got at least 6 inches right here. I'm laying this down. I'm taking the width of my binding, putting it like the bologna in between the sandwiches. I have then put this over and trimmed my width of my binding, trimmed off my actual binding, the width of this binding. Okay, so now we're going to take our width off, or have our extra piece off. We don't need anything else to do this except for a pin and a pen in order to mark it. Now what we are going to do is we're going to take these 2 flaps and we are going to put them together because we've got some easement in here because we've left extra space. If you don't feel like you have enough extra space, go ahead and unpick some of your attaching of the binding. I am now going to put these 2 fabrics right sides together, but I am going to do it at a 45-degree angle. So I'm not going to put them right sides together like this. I'm going to put them at an angle, okay? So this end is hitting that side, and this end is hitting the opposite side of this one. I am now going to place this out here. So let's look at that one more time. Okay, let's do that one more time, just in case. So you're going to take these, you're not going to put them together right like this on the tails. You're going to pivot them at a 45-degree angle. So let's go ahead and open this. And we're going to give ourselves our easement. So I kind of like to put my wrists about where my stitching is. I am now going to put the 2 sides right sides together at an angle, okay? So this is the end, the bottom one, the end is over here. The top one, the end is over to my left. All right, we are now going to pin this. I'm going to stick a pin in the center of it. And just until you feel really comfortable with this, I want you to just stick a couple extra pins in it, all right? We are now going to, it feels a little awkward. If you can, just go ahead and unpick additional stitches so you can feel better about this. We are now going to pull this out over like this, and we are going to use our ruler and we're going to draw a 45-degree angle. Right like this. And this is where we're going to join these strips. I'm going to take a pen and I am going to mark this angle. I wouldn't try to wing this. This is a time when you do want to get your ruler out and your pen, and you do want to mark this point where you are going to join your 2 tails of your binding strip. Okay, so now let's bring this back over to the sewing machine, and we are going to stitch down the center of this line. So let's go ahead and bring this over. I'm going to pull my threads back, and I'm going to just stitch this right along the line that I just drew. I should have put red thread in here. I have to film this for another video, a short form video that you guys can save and have handy. So here we go. We've got, I'll pull out my pins, but you can see I've sewn this right on top of that stitching line. Now, test what you've done. So I can see if I pull this straight, I can see that I've got this laying really well, okay? So I've tested what I've done. Now pull this out, and you're gonna cut off this excess fabric right here. So let's grab our scissors and just do a trim of about 1/4 of an inch excess fabric and join those together. Dolores, she says that she twists it. She twists her binding and she has to redo it. And you know what? That has happened to me too. You will get this down and have just a perfect rhythm to it. Now I am going to, I can press this. Let me go ahead and press it real fast, just so I can have more confidence bringing this closed and stitching it. So let's go ahead and bring the iron over. Let's press it down. But that should give you a pretty perfect finish of your fabrics. So look at how perfect that is. And over here is my other seam allowance. Look at how just perfectly clean those 2 seam allowances are. You wouldn't know which one was the start or the finish. Let's go ahead and bring this back underneath our sewing machine needle, and we're going to finish this hole that we left in order to join this process. All right, which if you feel like you're twisting it, I don't know. Maybe you're giving yourself too big of a hole, or I'm not sure, but you guys have seen me in other live videos where I have tried to do this and, you know, it works. Anyways, Linda, I'm so glad you can learn something. That's wonderful. Okay, so now we have our binding completely attached all the way around. Now, let's go ahead and let's look at what we've got. You guys, I have to fix this. I'm sorry. I'm going to fix this real fast. Should I just go ahead and, do you guys machine your quilt, machine bind your quilt, your binding down, or do you hand bind it? Do you guys want to learn how to machine quilt it? I don't know what to do. I'd like to hand bind this. It's such a fun small project, but I will be making another one of these. Okay, now, if you're going to machine quilt this down, let's go ahead and we're going to look at our corners here. All right, I'm going to show you. You can see how we've got a beautiful pleat right here where the corner is. Let me bring that so you can see it better. So you can see how beautiful that pleat is, and we're going to wrap this around, and we're going to use our binding clips. Let's see. Okay, here's my binding clips right here. You could use a tin. You can use whatever you like. So let me know. Oh, you hand bind. Yes, hand binding is wonderful. Okay, and I could give you guys some tips on machine binding it, because I definitely, for some baby quilts and things like that. Oh, let me go ahead and close this opening where I overlap this real fast before I forget what I am doing. Okay, so let's go ahead and close this real fast. Remember, I overlapped that, so I unpicked it, which means I unpicked my binding off the top. Okay, so this is an envelope pillow. Sometimes you would just layer this right sides together and then turn it inside out. Instead, I am actually putting a real binding on here instead of having, so this quilt will have an actual finished binding. Let me go ahead and show you how you are going to finish your corners, and maybe I will just machine some of this, and so you guys can see how to machine a binding if you want to. I am making multiples of these pillows so I can show you the machine technique, and I can show you the actual hand technique a little bit later this week. So let's go ahead and do this real fast. So I'm going to put this underneath my sewing machine. When I do this, I always start at the center of a quilt side. All right, I don't ever start at the top corner or any of the corners. I always start at the sides. Now, the goal of machine binding a binding, doggone it, I should have used red thread. I'm so sorry, you guys. I am going to wrap my binding around, and I'm going to show you how I go about the corners. My goal is to stitch exactly on the thread where I stitched the first time. Okay, so I should have used a white thread or a darker thread, something that would pop. Yellow would have been playful, right? So now I'm going to wrap this binding around. When I wrap it around, my goal is to stitch exactly where I stitched prior, because then I will hide my stitching line inside the corner of this binding. So let's go ahead and do it real fast. This won't take long, and I'll show you how to get around those corners. All right, and as soon as I can, I will give you a peek at this. So my goal is to stitch exactly, let me pull this a little closer so you guys can see. And I could be putting my pins on, but this is a pretty small project, you know, my binding clips. But let's just bring this around, and I'm going to bring this over to the corner and just pull that all the way to the one side, all right? I'm trying to stitch exactly where I stitched before. So you can feel it, and you can take a peek and make sure you're kind of stitching on that same line yet again. Once again, I'm going to stop 1/4 of an inch from my edge. I will pull this out and show you. Okay, so I went ahead and I stitched this. Let's check my stitching line. Right here, I'm on top of that line. I did take a peek, and over here, I went exactly right where that stitching line is. Let's look at this. Over here, I'm a little bit further out. By using the teal thread, you really can't see where that stitching line is. You can see it just a little bit. Okay, let's flip this way. Now, and as you do this, you can get better. Machine bind, please. Okay, Suzanne, I will do this. You know what? You need to pick a binding width that you feel comfortable with. Everybody has a different, so it's whatever your binding width is, and I'll tell you again what I use. Now, we went ahead and I'm kind of finger pressing this. Okay, I brought this down. You can see a 45-degree angle here. I'm now going to flip this over, and once again, I'm not going to come all the way down to the edge. I'm going to start 1/4 of an inch in, okay? Because that's typically the seam length that we're using. So I'm going to start my needle right here, okay? So let's go ahead and bring this around. Let's put it through. So for me, I like to, whenever I give a gift of a quilt, say to a baby or to a, you know, for a toddler or whatever, I want that quilt. I know that this is really kind of sad to say, but I want that, sometimes I want a machine binding, because I want that machine binding to, I want my quilt to be used. Say it's their favorite blanket that they want when they're sick, okay? I want that quilt to be drug around and taken when they're not feeling good and they're watching a movie, they might have a fever. So very often I do this for the kids' quilts. I will machine bind a kids' quilt, because I want that mom to feel like she can keep throwing it in the wash. And the hand binding, she doesn't need to have to repair a hand binding that might have come loose. Now, I'm not saying, like, I'd like that little grandma quilt to be that quilt okay, let's go ahead and just finish this on this side. To be that quilt that maybe might be in shreds later in their lifetime, but they're going to see that and remember what it was like. Okay, once again, let's go ahead and check. This is live video. So, look. Okay, right over here, I came a little bit over, which is fine. I can go back and fix that if I want to, but I think it's okay to see a couple threads. Okay, you can see here, I'm traveling along, and I'm just almost right where that same seam allowance is. So you can see, look here. Can you see where my thread is? Let me see if I can hold this anyway so that you guys can see that. So I'm just stitching, and it stays pretty consistent. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just trim my little threads right here. And once again, remember that we are now going to bring this over. Somebody asked, do I make this closed later on? I might hand stitch that a little bit, but there is not a hole in there. Nothing is going to come loose right there. You do not have to go back and necessarily hand stitch that closed. It will stay intact, okay? So this is something I do for, and maybe this is a good thing to do for a quilted pillow that's going to be outside. Okay, yeah, it's an outside pillow for me. Okay, once again, I'm bringing this over. I'm not going to stitch at my 1/4 of an inch seam. I'm going to give myself some allowance. I'll try to go a little faster so I don't take up too much time and make this video too long for you guys. Let's go ahead and stick a thread in it. Remember, I'm also working with my needle down position, so I can always take a peek down here, see where I am working on. So the goal is to stitch on top of where you stitched before. That's the goal. Or if so, just maybe slightly over a tiny bit. I've got some loose threads kind of hanging out. Just folding those back in. And I'm going to come down here and we'll close this up. I love this part of the quilting it just closes up all the layers. And you guys, okay, a bonus at the very end of this, you're going to see the pillow that I am replacing this pillow with. Okay, so stay with me till the end and you're going to see what I'm replacing. It's absolutely obscene. I left it outside all winter. Once again, I'm going to bring any of my threads kind of in the seam. I'm going to fold that over so I've got my point. And this is a woven fabric, so it's got a little bit more of a drape, but I thought it would be pretty for an outdoor quilted pillow. Okay, there we go. Once again, I'm just trying to stitch on top of my last stitch. I always loved it when my kids wanted their quilts when they were sick. It's like a nice little comfort type thing. I don't know, you guys. I know that might be kind of weird. Is that weird? Is that weird? Okay. All right. I guess I'll trim off a couple threads. Sometimes I don't, but this fabric is unraveling a little bit. Okay, we're going to come to this last corner. I'm only going to stitch 1/4 of an inch from the end. I'm bringing this down. And the reason why I do this is the quilt I might be giving away to somebody that doesn't sew at all. And I want them, so we're now going to just finish this up to here. Here's what my stitch length looks like on the front. They might not sew at all, so I don't want them to feel like they have a quilt that has come open and now they need to, put it away for the next 10 years because it might really break. So this is something I do when it's for kids and it's going to be washed a lot, or I hope it'll be washed a lot, right? Okay, there we go. Let's finish that off. All right, this is our finished quilted pillow. Let's move this to the side. Okay, look at that, you guys. So here you can see the inside. I think I got that on a pretty good light where you can see my stitching as I went around. A perfect time to do this is for a quilted pillow. Got some excess threads around. I am going to hand stitch this. So I'm going to hand stitch this with some quilting. We're going to do some hand quilting on this pillow. It's going to be fun, but we've got a beautiful envelope right here. So let's go ahead and get the old pillow. It's right here. Look at this pillow, you guys. Okay, I'm going to turn it to the front camera. Okay, look at that. All right. Okay, so you guys, for the first time last year, I planted my own garden. All right, so here, I love having kind of fun, playful, bright pillows outside. I have a covered patio that has like a couch and a table and chairs and all sorts of things. So, but last summer, I planted my first garden. I shared the story, and I'm sorry to share it again, but just so you guys know. And I kept my tomato plants, which I love. I just love tomatoes. My tomato plants kept blooming, but they'd never fruit, okay? So my niece, who is a master gardener, she's worked with me for forever, she said, Deanna, take a feather over to your plants and then just kind of, pollinate them. Just kind of swish it in the top of the flower and then swish all the other flowers of all the other plants. And I even did it with my tomatillo plants. And anyways, I then stopped getting just flowers and I started getting fruit and I was so excited. But I kept doing this like all summer long. So I have another little kind of like couch and 2 little chairs over by the garden. And so I I'd carry this pillow out over there, but then I'd carry it back, but I kept doing this over and over and I'd never find my feather. And maybe I should just hang a feather out there by my garden is what I need to do. Go buy a Hobby Lobby feather or something. Anyways, okay, so I left the pillow out all winter long. I did not know I left this pillow out. So it's really just completely damaged and all of that kind of stuff. So that's what inspired me to make something kind of fun. And this looks like pink lemonade to me. So let's go ahead and pull out this down pillow. Okay, has anybody done that? Okay, and this you can see I left it like this all winter long, but this is completely messed up. I mean, even the zipper is messed up. So let's try to get this out of here, you guys. We're gonna find some, I hope I don't find like some creature or something in this pillow. Wouldn't that just be awful? Oh my gosh. Okay, you guys. So, I don't know. This gives you some excitement for those of you guys that stayed till the end. Okay, here we go. Let's pull it out. It's a little scary. But this is such a beautiful down pillow. I love to snuggle on this pillow, and sometimes I like to take a nap, particularly with this pillow out there. Maybe I just need to cut this so I can burst this pillow out of here. My pillow form, right? Oh my gosh. Anyways, oh, this was a pretty fabric. I'll show you the inside of it. Look at how pretty that used to be. I mean, that was the back side of it, but wasn't it pretty? You can see what the summer sun and the weather did to it. Okay, no creatures. I'm so relieved there's no creatures in there. Okay, and it even still has the original tag. I can trim this off. We don't need that. Maybe I should look and see what it is. Okay, so now we're going to put this into our new pillow and see what it looks like. Okay? So you guys, thanks for being here. I might start sometime soon. We probably don't need that other little window right there. I'll move it over to the side. We might really soon not be doing my live videos 3 days a week because I have a paid course for those of you that purchased it, and I'm going to be doing Zoom lives for those ladies. So I'll probably do and I'm going to tell you what size I cut my pillow because of the pillow form. Okay, so let's stuff this into the envelope. We'll see. Maybe I'll put a zipper in there. We'll see. Okay, let's kind of get the pillow, the feathers right. Let's get this a little better. Okay. Okay, that looks really pretty. Oh my gosh. You guys, I can't wait to go outside and take a nap with this. Or whatever. Anyways, okay, look at that. Isn't that so pretty? Make a pillow with muslin and polyester batting scraps. That is such a perfect idea. It really is, Dolores. I like that idea. Okay, now, let me go ahead and tell you what the size of this pillow is. So, what I did is I took a measurement on here. I measured this. This was 19 inches in diameter. So I went ahead and I did a 19-inch from corner to corner, my entire square. I made it exactly the size of the last one. And this one even has a thing in it. So this is a 19-inch pillow, but let's look at how big this is. The actual pillow, it's 18 inches. So the actual pillow form is an 18-inch. So I'm only my coal quilt top is just 1 inch bigger. So if you have an 18-inch pillow form, make your square to be 19 inches. And it's just as good as that. And it works out just fine. You can even have it be exactly, you have an 18-inch pillow form, make it 18-inch pillow square. And it will really fill in just absolutely beautiful. So, okay, you guys, I will eventually have this as a pattern for you. I'm going to make some more of these. I will make this a short form video so that you can go ahead and grab this technique really fast, super, super fast for you. You don't have to watch the whole video. But this is a machine binding that we attached to the top, and then we also attached it to the back. And really for this pillow form, you really can't tell either way. And how much of an overlap do I have here? I've got about probably a 4 or 5 inch overlap with my backing of it. Let me look. It's it's about a 4 to 5 inch overlap back there on the back of the envelope. So it looks pretty good. Okay, you guys, thank you. I will see you a little bit later this week. What we are going to do is we are going to slow stitch this. We're going to use a very long embroidery needle, which is absolutely wonderful. It's a size 8. And we are going to actually use some floss. Where's my floss? Okay, it's variegated. It's so beautiful. Hold on, there it is. I see it. I just don't want to switch anything up. I've got this one that's a beautiful variegated floss. So it's a thick, thick floss. So we're going to experiment with some slow stitching with a very big needle that can hold floss. I've got one of these that's got like a yellow and teal to it. And this one is a variegated yellow and pink. So pretty, isn't it? So on Wednesday, we're going to do some really neat slow stitching. And I'm going to accent it like right in the center of these little white stripes right here. And we're going to do some slow stitching. So you guys, really fun. Be sure to come back on Wednesday at noon we'll be doing our slow stitching and playing around with that, and I'll teach you all the tips and tricks of slow stitching. So can't wait to see you guys. I will have this pattern available sometime soon, but I'm making another. Bye-bye. Have a great one. We'll see you later.